Wassail, the most beautiful people. You really are. My mother hasn't passed away yet, but I've been in a very uncomfortable energy or confusing energy, learning energy for the last few days, and all your beautiful messages have helped me to connect very emotionally with myself, with my mother, with the cosmos. And it seems a very odd thing, but it seems to me a very natural thing. But in order to keep my mind sane, I need to do this. It's helping me to move through this energy. So it's now the fourth day of waiting, and it's like I sense through cards and channeling that my mother's energy, it's like almost like she's clinging so much to life somehow. And my dear astrology master, I want to call her, because she's educating me all the time on how astrology works. She did my mother's chart this morning. We obviously don't know the time of birth, but for most of the planets it's not going to make any difference. And rather amazingly, my mother has a 6-planet stellium in Taurus, which is Earth. So if ever there's an energy that feels like it's going to be very difficult to prize away from life, it would be this. Taurus is ruled by Venus, which is love. It's also Empress energy, and that's the energy frequency of the emotional feminine creating life. And obviously there's that sense of it being an energy frequency that I am birthed from. And so I kind of feel like my mum's frequency is incredibly cosmically magical. And I thought it would be interesting to do a reading today, because I've been channeling lots of information. In astrology, once a person has passed, you can still plot their chart throughout your life, because it still tells you their energetic influence in spirit. And I thought it would be interesting to look at that. It's also completely fascinating that 5 of the planets that are lining up for the stellium right now are a complete match with 5 of the planets of my mother. The only difference is my mother has Gaia, Uranus, and not the moon. But I don't know exactly where her moon is because I don't have the time of her birth. But it was kind of in Gemini on that day. My mother also has Black Moon Lilith in Taurus, and my mother is called Lilith. Well, she's called Lillian, but I've always had a very strong connection with that being part of her name. So I'm sort of learning to connect with her energy. But this, I don't know what this reading is going to be about. But to begin with, it's about, the intention is for it to be a conversation or a questioning to do with the passageway that opens on your end of life pathway. It seems very strange because my mother's frequencies seem to be all about creating life in Taurus with this stellium. So let's just see what comes. It's helping me to remain centered, to sit here and talk with you, and to not be crying my eyes out, which obviously at moments I've been doing. It's only natural. but also sensing the energy of what my mother will become in spirit. Now, because she will, the sense I'm getting is that spirit, people when they've passed and they go into spirit, they still take with them their natal magic, because it's part of the frequency that interacted with you while they were alive. So anyway, let's just see what gives. And we'll see what comes and just channel the messages that come through. The medicine wheel. It's kind of coming across as the frequency of death being the medicine of spirit, because we incarnate on earth and the natural final medicine is to leave the earth and return to spirit, to shed the snakes really coming out of the wheel, and giving me that imagery and energy of spiritual karma, stepping outside of the physical 3D body. And that's 3 and 5. What else would you like to tell us about the journey towards death? What would you like to tell us about the journey towards death? So I've got 3 cards. One's facing down, which I'm not going to turn over at the moment. So, beloved child. Now, for the last few days, I've obviously been shuffling a lot of cards, looking for messages, looking for confirmations, looking for different understandings of life. And this card has been one of the most regular to turn up. And the immediate moment that it turned up, it was giving me the frequency of, I want to say, as I always use it, as the damaged child, but it's been coming over as dementia. It's been coming over as that energy of how over the years that dementia was claiming its frequency over my mother, was the loss of the adult, a loss of the personality, and how slowly she drifted back in time. So, and being very aware of it and very frightened by it and very stressed by it, and knowing that there was nothing she could do to fight this. It's a very cruel, degenerative illness. And slowly she became more childlike and more vulnerable and more in need of love and support. And how, because of 2020 with the COVID restrictions, I haven't been able to go and visit her for over a year. And that's been a very difficult frequency to come to terms with, but to come to terms with it in a way that I'm not assigning anger or blame on a situation, but accepting a situation. It is very uncomfortable, but I've had to learn to live with it. And I think I had to go on my journey alone to kind of be in a similar position to the frequency of the energy that birthed me, my mother, to explore. It's interesting, I was thinking about the Dolman reading, A Mother of Many, and how she became the mother of many, that energy of opening a doorway, and how I keep thinking that maybe I need to go and open a doorway of light for my mother, and ask for her mother and my brother, who you all know passed away over 3 decades ago, to be there for her, to stand there for her, so that I'm finding a way to approach the inevitable with a sense of comfort and compassion. And we have card 5, which has become a very significant number. My mother's born in May. She's born on the 1st of May, on May Day. And May is her middle name. But it's also the day, not the same month, that my brother was born. And I'm feeling very much like the message that came through that said she's on her final life path came through on the 1st of February as Venus, heart, and Taurus is ruled by Venus, came through on the frequency of my day. I'm born on the 1st, and so I wonder somehow whether tomorrow will be the energy being my brother's day, because my mother's born on the same day as me. She's born on the 1st, and her month, the 5th, is the energy of the day my brother was born on, and also her mother. So I think what I'm sort of saying is there's we search for comforts, and it's very difficult to not just allow this ugly download of energy that makes you feel, I want to say a little bit lost. I want to say that we need to find an inner strength of acceptance. And obviously I've been feeling very lost and feeling very alone. Look, I know everybody's out there, and it's absolutely been so powerfully helpful to feel all the love and the energy that you've given me, and it's incredibly kind and really, really beautiful. But I still have to, at some point, find my emotional center as I embrace this frequency that my mother is embracing. And then we have, we've got the drum, and it's 1/5, which is her birthday. And I want to say this is about singing your own song, but that's not the energy that's coming off this now. There's an image of a drum as a heartbeat, as a pulse of life, the physical body, and reaching up through spirit. This figure is very much coming across as a kind of eagle. And so I'm also getting an image of the moon, and striking. It's like this is saying, I can open a frequency, I can center myself, I can prepare all that I might do, I can open a light path, but it's my mother's own journey. She owns her journey, and she gets to decide her exact moment. And that's interesting, because I've been debating how we have a sense of destiny from the norns and the idea that there is a written pathway, and how much of our death destiny is free will. So let's go to Odin, and let's see what Odin has to say. So, Odin. I'm just going to rifle them 3 times and shuffle them 3 times. Any that fall out for the moment I'm not accepting. I just want to focus centered energy into the cards. Right, so I've got to really itch here. Oh, that was very powerful frequency on my eyebrow. Maybe it's that slug. Oh. So I've got 3 cards. The sun came out hiding, healing, but this very much feels like the energy of the passageway to, I want to say the underworld, not meaning that I believe my mother's about to go down to the underworld, but the underworld is traditionally the place that many cultures and religions have placed as death energy. I mean, air is healing. And then we have vend, wind, sun and wind. Okay, so in my head, I'm being told that there's something to do, and I don't understand, there's something to do with the transition of the stellium from Earth. My mother was Earth energy, being so, having so many planets in Taurus. And now we're moving to air energy, which is wind, vend. So what else am I getting from this? Because the stellium in Aquarius is this magical lineup. I mean, seriously, it is quite profoundly magical. I have 4 planets in my stellium in Virgo, which has been an energy that I've always been very uncomfortable with, and I'm learning to accept it. But that's also an earth energy. And I have only 1 planet that I share with my mother's stellium, which is Jupiter. But this is talking about the passing of the sun, the passing of the light into the wind. It's like wind is very much, air is very much spirit, is very much that frequency. And these 2 cards are pulling in opposite directions. So the energy that I'm receiving from them is a space opening, a doorway opening, a portal opening to make space for a transition. That's the word that we're looking at. And vend is very much an energy of prosperity, of things moving in the right direction. And obviously, you know, the one thing that we all have as an inevitable part of our journey and destiny forwards is to embrace death at some point, and also to re-embrace spirit, to return to that energy of the beloved, to lift the love, because we are, our spirit, our cosmic energy, when we incarnate, comes down as pure love. It doesn't come down with distortions. The distortions are as our consciousness wraps itself, there's your siren, the truth. As the consciousness wraps itself around our DNA, our inherited ancestral traumas, that's what creates the difficulties, the emotional inconsistencies in our life that we're trying to work through. So, where will we go next? Moonology cards, because we're waiting on the moon's arrival in this stellium. It seems very interesting to me that it's kind of like, and that's the part where I've got this contradiction between it's my mother's decision and my mother's journey, but that then there's that frequency of a destiny that she was born when there was a 6-planet stellium in Taurus, and it seems that now she's making her transition to back to spirit when this almost exactly the same stellium has lined up. The only difference being this stellium involves the moon. My mother's could as well. And the fact that my mother has Gaia, Uranus, in her stellium. So, what else would you like to let people know about this transitional pathway into death that we all have to embrace? It's to see it as a new start. A new start is coming. I mean, it's really the energy that's coming towards me. I'm not saying I'm feeling that sense of the white tunnel that exists that's so full of bliss and comfort and love, but it's just behind this new moon. It's just what's hidden. It's the esoteric truth behind the veil of consciousness at the galactic center of the universe. So it's trying to say, don't fear death, but don't also feel like you have to embrace death. Death will come in its time, in its moment, but that you shouldn't fear returning to spirit. And you know, we're in a frequency at the moment where many people are losing loved ones. So we have the waning moon. So a waning moon is a moon that's giving up its energy. And we are currently in a waning moon. The moon is waning before the new moon that comes on the 11th and 12th of February. And I also have full moon in Aries. A fiery climax approaches, but I'm not fully sure, but I've got a funny feeling that my mother and my north and south nodes are exactly the same but opposition. And this is some kind of reference to a fiery climax approaching in terms of the energy of spirit, the fire, the divine spark, this energy that's here in the sun, being part of the journey, and this feels incredibly fiery. It's, you know, wands, batons, fire is the divine spark that begins everything. And it's almost talking about, and they're not saying redness, they're talking about pure energy, but energy is alive. Energy is the heat, the frequency, please help me to describe it, the vibration, it's the atomic magic, I almost want to say, or the magic of light energy, spiritual energy that vibrates the molecules of the natural world, because within the world there's this much, in the world, in the cosmos, there's this much void and darkness, and then there's this small amount of light energy that animates and gives, hello, sorry, my cleaner's just arrived, that animates everything. So let's just take a tarot deck and finish this message so that I can go and speak with the cleaner who comes in every 10 days to make my space beautiful. So I had this card earlier. To me, this is a card of when we come from spirit into the real world. We come from spirit and we make ourselves manifest through light energy into the frequency of the 3D world. Oh, I know what this card is. Oh, it's not. And we come here... We come here to create unions with our consciousness and with our molecules. But we also come here, that's what they want to say. We think we come here to create union with another and with ourselves. But there's the third part, is the union that we create with our biome, the bacteria that exist all around us. And so I'm being reminded that another part of the passageway of death is to admit that it's not just your consciousness that's leaving your body, but your bacteria are being gifted your body back. And then your bacteria will work with other bacteria, and they will also, depending on the kind of funeral you have, whether you're buried and your natural biome works with other bacteria to dissolve your body, or whether you choose fire through cremation, or whether you maybe go into water. There's many different ways, but you're releasing your consciousness to allow the entire natural world of the world's biome, the bacteria, the viruses, to reclaim and reorganize the physical body. Very strange message to be getting, but it's been coming through a lot recently, the importance of surrendering ourselves to our gut biome and our skin biome and all of the things around us, so that the microbes can support your body. I'm almost kind of getting this sense that the microbes are also part of what's holding on to my mother's consciousness. And then we have the wheel. Death is a natural destiny point. It's part of a sequence that we go through. And there was a new energy that came from this card the other day that I was very profoundly moved by, but it's not showing itself today. There's a mandala in the center. There's moon frequencies moving around, different phases of the moon. And the new moon is the point at the top. So it's talking about cycles, life cycles, death cycles, changes, the natural ebb and flow of existence in the physical world, and then removing from the physical world and being back in spirit, being back in that energy of pure love. So let's just have a few more tarot just to end. What else can you tell us about the passageway to death, please? What else can you tell us about the passageway through death back to spirit? Let's look at it in a really positive light. It's a return to spirit. Return to spirit. It's a Four of Voices, a healing. Four of Voices is swords, it's air energy, it's consciousness. And it's followed by the Five of Materials, which is, I guess I want to say this is the portal of death. And letting go of somebody, learning to let go of somebody. It's like being told on Monday that this pathway is now opening for my mother, has opened a lot of very deep emotions within me. And it's almost like I am this hand holding on to her energy, and I have to learn to release the energy. There's a real sense of the music of the spheres, like it's like, I don't want to say the final chord because it's not. It's a journey into this golden light, and and again, it's a 5. This Taurian energy that I'm really feeling through a lot of this. It's about, I mean, look, here is the figure that feels very much like, and I want to be brave enough to say the broken energy brought about by dementia. So I'm going to just ask for a final message from the shamanics. The final message is about me, and about you, and about us, the living, who remain when someone very close to us moves through their portal to return to spirit. We have the rainbow. The energy of, I want to say, it's the energy of the beloved, the person who is your beloved, the person who is passing. I'm going to put a link into a reading I did a while back when my beautiful dog passed over and was released into spirit. And she came through and she told me the most beautiful things. It's called good grief. And grief can be good. There is a form of good grief. In that reading, I was told that people who love you return to the frequency of love. They are beloved of spirit, as we all are. And when they return to spirit, when they pass through this doorway, they're then able to return all the love that you put into them as a healing energy. So this card is not just about letting go, but it's about bracing the love that is about to return to you from the person who loved you, and how their spirit, their energy is with you, and how it's keeping you safe and in comfort. And it ends with that energy helping us all to move into the Time Master frequency, which is always a card that we comically laugh at because it looks a lot like me with the big long beard. He's got a lot more hair on the top of his head. And it's about the energy coming from this card is about how we feel that the energy of the person who has transitioned back to spirit was just a moment in time. But the Time Master card is about how there is no time. That's why a Time Master is able to shift and warp and deal and bend and settle through time, because in spirit there is no time. And so it's kind of learning to accept the beauty of a loved one, a beloved, returning to spirit, and then having all the time in the world to work with them, with their energies, with their frequencies, and how loved ones, when they go to spirit, all have different purposes in your life. So my brother is a protecting energy. My mother's mother is an energy who comes often to remind me of the importance of love and compassion. And I don't know what frequency my mother will be for me in spirit, but something tells me it's very much an Empress, Earth, Venus frequency, but I'm not going to try and define that. I'm going to allow her choice of passage, when she is ready, to return to spirit, and for her to then decide how she wishes to interact with me once she's in spirit. It will be very, very comforting to know that she is no longer trapped in her dementia, because that's been a very cruel frequency to accept. So in many ways, her passing is something that I embrace, and it's a very profoundly difficult energy to face, and there are lots of expectations on how we should feel in that moment and how grief should behave. But the energy that I got from the reading with my dog is that those that pass really don't want you to be sad. They want to help you to live, because that's what we're here for. We're here to live a life and to experience a return to love in the physical body. So that's my little reading about the journey back to spirit. I am here. I will read all of your comments, but at the moment I'm not feeling very comfortable replying, so just bear with me. I'm the most centered today than I've been all week. And this evening I want to go out and have a little wander around the city in the darkness with my mum in some way, and go and visit some sites and converse with her and just show her how much I love her. And I don't want to say I will miss her, because with dementia you feel like you're losing the person for a few years, and so there's been a long period of trying to get used to this frequency, and I'm now allowing her the space to decide her passageway back to spirit. Anyway, I hope that's of help to some of you. It's quite helpful to me to have sat here and to have been able to speak to you from a very centered space. And I'm not saying I don't want to cry and I don't want to feel emotional, but when I made the first video, the energy was so fiercely fresh that it was very difficult to control. And so I feel like I'm learning to handle the frequency of the passage back to spirit, I guess. So anyway, thank you so much for listening. Thank you all so much for the beautiful messages. They have helped me to be very emotional and to cry, and I thank you all for the enormous love that you've all sent out. So anyway, please talk among yourselves about what I'm talking about here. That would be really beautiful too. So I shall keep doing readings because it helps me to stay centered, and I'll let you know when I know anything. So wassail, beautiful people.